Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel. There's a lot of NASA in the news recently, and I wanted to touch on the stuff that they are suggesting through the media. And obviously, nobody trusts NASA anymore. Their credibility is going down more so than before, I think. Not just in the conspiracy community, but I'll show you that there are just some problems in general with the way they're dealing within the media even. First off, the big story that's out there, it's trending and everything, dark side of the moon captured by NASA satellite a million miles from Earth. Now, the image here allegedly is from the US Space Agency, which released images from Deep Space Climate Observatory showing the moon as it moves in front of the sunlit side of Earth. And so this is supposed to be that footage. And I gotta say, this looks so ridiculously fake. I can't even, like if they're gonna do this, just give us the raw footage, Like I know they probably spiced it up just a little bit or whatever, but man, it is just so terrible. There's no cloud movement of the Earth, and the moon just looks fake. It looks like I can do this in Photoshop. I mean, it's just a really bad rendition of the alleged moon moving in front of the Earth. And even the ratio of the moon to the Earth looks a little off. And I mean, everything just kind of looks off about this video. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that are much more suited to debunk it than I am. But I think even to a lot of normal folks, this just doesn't look real at all. So there you have it. NASA allegedly caught this footage from a million miles away. So there you go. That's one story. Another story. Nichelle Nichols, Star Trek's Uhura, I think is the way you pronounce it, will fly on NASA's SOFIA observatory. And basically, she was a cast member on Star Trek, the original series, and she's going to be honored with being able to sit on NASA's new telescope, SOFIA. Now, of course, we look at SOFIA. She is a Gnostic goddess. She's the divine feminine, is the lowest aeon, an anthropic expression of the emanation of the light of God in Gnosticism, and she is considered to have fallen from grace in some way, and in doing so helped create the material world. And so within Gnosticism, Sophia is responsible for the physical world, and so obviously NASA is going to support Gnostic ideas, and they have for a very long time, and Sophia is one of them. And of course, conveniently, they name this satellite SOFIA, which is the Stratospheric Infrared Observatory. I don't know how you get SOFIA from that, but there you go. Story number 3. NASA coughs up $490 million for 6 more seats on Russia's Soyuz rocket. So basically, they're complaining to the US government for not funding more money to NASA, and therefore they have to cough up $490 million for 6 seats on the Soyuz rocket to get to the International Space Station, which is the story here. So, tax dollars at work there, and they're mad at the US government for pulling funds of NASA. And it's interesting because NASA's also funding 2 private companies, SpaceX and Boeing, to help develop and operate crew transportation vehicles to ferry US astronauts to and from the International Space Station. And we know that SpaceX, with Elon Musk at the helm, has not been very successful. They've had some stuff blow up. So it seems to be either a ploy to try to get more funding back into NASA as some sort of internal false flag, NASA going, oh, look, we don't have enough money. We're making poor devices that explode in the air. Or it's all just a ruse, which most of you watching this will probably say anyway. But I do find it interesting that they're, paying Russia all this money. And, in geopolitical news, I've pointed this out before, but, with Putin there, the threat of nuking America and stuff like that, it's just very bizarre that, if you're going to pay us $490 million, it's totally fine, but we're still going to nuke you. The geopolitical stuff, in contrast to the space exploration stuff, it's just inconsistent, and, it just makes me sick that they're spending $490 million for 6 seats on some Russian rocket so they can get to the ISS that may or may not even exist. as most of you would say. And I would say, I don't know. If it does exist, what is it doing? What's the point? I don't know. NASA is building prospecting drones to look for resources on Mars. Engineers test gas jets instead of rotors to operate in thin atmospheres. So when they're not paying for 6 seats on Russian airliners out to the ISS, they're building drones for Mars. Because it wasn't enough to have drones on Earth, they need to have drones on Mars. So there you have it. Another story that has NASA at the helm. This one's on The Verge, so it's a little bit more hip, if you will. Another story that was reported, NASA prepares to test the RS-25 engine. And the basic story here is on the 13th of August, NASA will test the RS-25 engine at Stennis Space Center. The engine that was used in the Space Shuttle program had 100% mission success rate, and so they're pouring in all their funds to the upgrade of this engine. Again, why are we using combustible engines when clearly Tesla showed that there is free energy technology? Oh, I know, they want to keep us down. So basic stuff there. But, they always try to make it look like, oh, we're making progress and we're building on success stories and stuff like that. When over 100 years ago, we know that Tesla discovered certain aspects of the ether to have free energy technology. So always kind of frustrating to see stories like this. And then Space Daily, your portal to space, reported an article called Overselling NASA. And, we talked about Earth 2.0 last week or a couple weeks ago, I guess. And again, I listened to the whole press conference with all the questions being asked. And this article just points out that, most people were sort of flabbergasted when they found out that they have no idea exactly how old it is, if it's actually inhabitable, if it's got an ocean. They don't know anything about this alleged planet that's out there. It just happens to be in orbit in this Goldilocks zone from the star. It means nothing, it doesn't mean anything. But obviously NASA trying to stay relevant in the news. And again, more people are becoming suspicious of this sort of thing because, and again, this is not just conspiracy theorists. These are just normal people being suspicious because, NASA just hypes it up so much. And why? Why are you hyping it up so much? The Fiscal Times House panel asks NASA why it isn't probing SpaceX blast. Washington, this Reuters reported, a House panel this week asked NASA to explain why it hasn't launched an independent review of the explosion on June 28th of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket, as it did after the earlier explosion of orbital ATK Antares rocket on October 28th. Both launches were paid for by NASA under separate contracts worth well more than $1 billion each and destroyed unmanned rockets carrying cargo to the International Space Station. $1 billion each. And, they're obviously being critical of NASA for not looking into it. If they really cared about SpaceX and they really cared about getting to the ISS, like they said earlier that they're, spending money on SpaceX and stuff, I would imagine that this sort of thing would trouble them. But again, maybe they're just doing it to try to get more funding from the government. It's just sickening. And I got a couple more here. This one was published on The Express. Did bit of moon break off, or was UFO watching Apollo landing? Even NASA won't say. NASA has been unable to explain why a piece of the moon appears to have broken off in one of its pictures taken during the Apollo 11 moon landing. And there's the image right there. The odd spot was uploaded to YouTube by prolific alien chaser StreetCap1, who thought the anomaly could be a UFO which was monitoring the moon landing. It was then picked up by fellow UFO researcher, US-based Scott C. Waring, editor of UFO Sightings Daily. Mr. Warner said, "This is a great photo of the moon in high quality. However, there's one odd thing about it. A piece of it is breaking away." And he goes on and talks about aliens and blah, blah, blah. But again, very interesting. Why is there a piece of the moon flying away? Is it because the picture is fake? Or is it because there are demons up there waiting? Or is something else going on? Do we have other military craft that they're not telling us about? Well, either way, NASA can't be trusted. More lies. And finally, my favorite story of the day, the Business Insider. People want NASA to investigate this mysterious crab-shaped object photographed on the moon. And here's the original footage, full resolution. And this is the image that they're talking about. I'm going to zoom into the object, and clearly it looks like either a graphic or some sort of crab entity. It doesn't look necessarily natural. I suppose it could be, but it definitely looks like something else is going on. Either this photo is from Earth, which there have been in the past, indications that quote unquote official photos of Mars is just landscape from Arizona. So that's entirely possible. But other times, if, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, if this is some sort of real life picture from Mars, then, you got to explain this. This looks like old carvings that were on cave walls and stuff like that. And, might give credence to some theories that David Flynn had. More lies from NASA. And one last thing. If NASA is all about everything space, shouldn't it say something about the meteor hit that happened in Iran a few days ago? I mean, how come there's not only a media blackout, but nothing being said from NASA? I would imagine NASA would make some sort of statement about a meteor that struck Iran and was seen from other countries if they were actually about really giving us the truth about what's going on out there. So, NASA, if you're watching, we're on to you, and we have been for a long time, but it doesn't really matter because you guys are going to keep doing what you're doing, keep doing what you're told, and we'll see how everything plays out. Hope you guys have an awesome day. God bless.